Mm.
I'll just do this. Hello and good morning, everyone. And good morning, Irina. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Just had breakfast.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that people are having breakfast and watching this also. And how are you enjoying the sweater weather?
I love it. This is just a gorgeous time of year. So
Mhm.
I don't mind it at all. I think it's beautiful.
I think we will wait for a couple more minutes for people to join in, and then I will introduce the show and the shortcut, and then you, and then we will start with the whole conversation.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
We'll wait for like 3 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So are you in, I never asked, like, are you in Helsinki or in some
Yeah,
other
I'm in
part?
Malmö.
Okay.
It's north of Pasila. Everyone knows Pasila, right? So
Yeah.
north of Pasila, the place, like a lot of people haven't heard about Malmö, but it's like on the
Mhm.
same level as Oulunkylä.
Mhm.
Yeah. How about you? Where are you?
I'm in Otaniemi, in Espoo.
Okay. Nice. Yeah. So the 550 and the 552 connects us.
Yeah, an easy route there.
Pardon?
Easy route there, an easy
Yeah.
ride there.
Exactly. Yeah. It's so
I'll
funny.
just
I was
click
thinking this
on.
morning, like normally we would probably be doing this in person, and now it's like just put on a shirt and brush your hair.
Mhm.
And here we are.
I think it's much easier, you don't have to like, you just like have to brush and that's it, like nothing
Yeah.
more. And
Yeah, like I
if
was
you're if
having breakfast here, and I was like, see, I would have had to rush and do all of this. Of course, it's nice to see people in person as well.
Mhm.
But it also makes it feel like these events are maybe easier to organize overall.
Mhm.
So I don't know, the ups and downs of this life, this current situation.
Mhm. Yeah, I also feel the same, and I don't know, like I've kind of got used to it. And at one point, like while hosting like these shows, I was thinking like, shall I also have like cookies while having the 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 events? But then I felt like, okay, maybe that's not a good option. What if I'm like chewing so much, or what if there's like chewing sounds and all of this, and it starts popping up? Like, what should I do? What should I do? Then I'm like, okay, I'll just have breakfast before.
Yeah. I was also thinking like, or can I eat during? No, absolutely not.
I think that's the leverage for only the audience, that they can eat during the events.
Enjoy. Hyvää ruokahalua.
Wow, I think I'm gonna be like, I was also like, because I also want to learn Finnish so much, so it would like provide so much value to myself also. So I'm like ready with my papers. I'm just gonna like write down everything.
Nice.
For
Okay, I look
future purpose.
forward to your questions too, and
Mhm,
just like in the moment, seeing what comes up, because
mhm.
yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna say either. Let's see.
Yeah. Yeah, there are, because I think a lot of things, because I think it is so much, it is the one thing that you would notice no matter what when you come to any other country who doesn't speak English. So like
Mhm.
when I was in Finland, the first thing you notice, like all the signs changed, all the, the directions changed, and everything is now in a different language than you're used to.
Yeah, exactly. It's all around, and it's
Mhm.
there isn't so many like half the words are the same. Yeah. Good morning.
Morning. I'll just
This is
go
so
in and
cool. I've never used this platform before, so this is really neat.
I'll just wait for 1 more minute and then we will start to this.
Okay. Sounds good. Good morning, Karen.
Good morning.
Yeah, in the meantime, if people just want to say good morning, say good morning.
It's good. I love good mornings. Like I miss people saying me good morning. That is why I hosted, this show so that everyone comes in and joins and says good morning.
Yeah. Also,
Good
how many
morning.
languages can we say good morning in? Hyvää huomenta. I know god morgon.
God morgon. What is that language?
It's Swedish.
Hey. What are the other languages that you know? What were they?
Romanian. So
Yeah.
bună dimineața. Good morning, Samantha.
Morning.
Bon matin, French. English. Spanish. Good morning, Ekaterina.
Good morning.
And German, very rusty. Very rusty German. I think, did I say Finnish? I think that's your first question. So I'll explain how all of that came to be. But
and there are also people from there where is it night. So
yeah,
I think
good morning, Mauricio. Oh my goodness, so you must be middle of the night, South America.
We should like have also dinner with online dinner with this shortcut. Okay, so I think we can start now. So basically, for the people who are in Finland, I'm pretty sure that most of you know what the shortcut is about. However, for the people who do not have any idea about what the shortcut is, we are the largest talent accelerator in the Nordics. So we connect startups with different VCs, and also we connect different enthusiasts with different startups, and also different people who are looking for jobs to different startup jobs. And this is the online breakfast show with the shortcut, where we talk about different soft skills and emotional intelligence and all kind of these things. And today we have our special guest, Irina. So Irina, if you would like to introduce yourself to the audience.
Hi, my name's Irina Pravet, and I am a cultural and linguistics coach and consultant. So that's a title that I've developed and crafted over time. So if you've never heard it before, I mean, if you have heard it before, I would be surprised. But it basically consists of, working with people who are living in a foreign country, and navigating all of the transitions that come with learning a new language. But it's not just learning a new language, it's like living your life through a new language and through the lens of a different culture. So that's, I guess, what we'll be talking about today, like languages and jobs, right?
Yeah. And what about, like, how did your passion, like, for learning languages, like also in general, like learning Finnish language start? Like, where did this journey start of yours?
So I was born in Romania. It started like before I was born. I was born into a family of like linguophiles, so like people who like languages, which with all the people that I grew up around, that wasn't a weird thing. It was just like, you learn languages, they open your world. My grandmother was a Romanian Italian translator. She worked for the Romanian Italian radio station for 20 years. She translated books. And she spoke like 5 languages before Google was ever conceived. So like my dad went to like German kindergarten, even though he doesn't speak German now. And my mom started learning English when she was like 8. So it was just kind of there. It's always been there. So when by the time I came along, you know, it was just, of course you can learn any language. We had like Italian vinyls playing in my house growing up. I didn't really realize that all of these things were like not in everyone's family until recently. But yeah, and then when we moved, so my parents and I left Romania in 1993 after the revolution and everything, like 4 years after, but and we moved to Canada. So first the French part where I learned French, then the English part where I already spoke English, but just spoke it like on a regular basis with my friends. And then we had like a lot of Romanians left Romania, and my parents kept in touch with them. So in 1998, we went to Europe, we went to Germany, and I was like, what is this beautiful language? I want to speak it. So I fell in love with German. And then that brought me back to like 10 years later, I went on exchange, or more than 10 years later, where I met my Finnish husband. So there was like a Germany connection, and it was just like, yeah, well, I could learn Finnish. So that was like the very, very fast forward version. But basically languages have always been around, and I've enjoyed learning them. And it would just happen. But when I came to Finland and I expected to just learn Finnish, it didn't really go like that. So I really had to ask myself, like, all the things that I thought I knew about learning languages, like I had to go deeper. When learning doesn't automatically happen, then I had to go like question the things that I thought I knew. So in a sense, Finnish has been an amazing teacher for me to really go deeper into you know, how do we succeed at learning, and what can we do when it doesn't happen. So that's sort of like my thing that I'm really excited about sharing as well.
Why did you, like, when you mentioned like when you started learning like Finnish and it, like, you know, you had to go deeper, why do you think that happened? Is it because of the complexity of the language, or like having no similarities with English, or what was the reason for that?
No, it's a lot of things, and a lot of times, you know, we focus on the language, and actually one of the things that I try to like direct people towards is that it's not just about me sitting with a book and studying. It's also about the environment that I'm in. So in that sense, I think in previous times, yeah, the languages that I had studied before, like Spanish, for example, I spoke Romanian, I spoke French. So there was a lot with Spanish that I already knew. So it just looked like, okay, I learned Spanish really quickly, when in fact those skills had been developed in other languages. But with Finnish, I think I was expecting like an immersion into an environment. And I felt that with the language options that I was being offered, I didn't have the opportunity to really immerse myself so that my brain could like absorb you know, everything going on around me. Add to that like a million things that generally we don't think of as having to do with the language, like, okay, like where are you working, right? Where like how have you settled? Do you have friends? Like all of these things that are added stressors when we move to another country, and then you don't have 100% you know, energy and attention to put towards learning the language, because you're actually managing absolutely everything. So I think all of those things play a role, and that's why I think every single person's journey is really unique. I've seen people like sweep in here with like everything set up in advance. I've seen people like come here with no plan at all, right? So I think and everything in between, obviously. But I think we also have to look at how much like cognitive energy we have for learning, and then also what kind of opportunities we're seeking out. So, you know, how do you expect to learn, right? Where do you learn? Is it specifically a classroom, or what are you doing outside of the classroom? Like we could go infinity, so I'll stop there. But basically, I don't think it's just the language, it's also the way we go about learning it in the context of everything going on in your life.
Like one of my friends is like I'm originally from Bangladesh, so we speak like Bangla, so Finnish Shikbo. It's like I want to learn Finnish, and it is mainly like also as students when we come to a foreign country, or people who wants to like work in a foreign country, they try to learn this language. So like just in very general, I know that this is very broad. Like how do you start? Like what do you like go through at the beginning if you want to learn a language like Finnish?
Yeah. Let's see.
It is very broad, but like what would be the whole process behind it? Like do I just like go over the internet and like start searching like Finnish language courses, or like how should I start or do I like start by watching movies? Now of course it will depend, I guess, from person to person, but what would be like a process that would be helpful for the majority of people?
So I think two things. One is, learning is not like black and white. It's not like now I'm learning and now I'm not. We are immersed in an environment. So for those living abroad, like it's all around you, right? So you can learn little things as you go. You don't have to be sitting in a classroom or reading a book. So I think that's one important thing, of just maybe you've already started learning, right? Maybe like, so acknowledging the things that you've already done. And then the second thing is also see what you're excited about, see what you're curious about, and follow that. Because there are so many apps right now, there are so many courses, there are so many just so many options, right? You'll Google learn Finnish language and it's like and so in that sense, I would say there is no right or wrong answer, and it's actually about your process and how you enjoy learning. So in that sense, really pay attention to the things that you would like to do, the things that you're curious about, the things that you want to know, right? So if you're like really excited to sign up for a course, go for it. If you're not feeling that, and instead you find a book from the library, or you go completely, you go immerse yourself somewhere, go, like whatever it is, it's going to look different for different people. And one of the things that I love to do is to encourage people to go in the direction that there isn't a right way or a right thing to do, but just sitting with that attention. Okay, I want to learn. And then what would be to me a fun way of learning? I think that can be just permission. You have permission to go and explore it. There is no like, oh, it has to look like this for it to officially be learning. So yeah. Did that satisfy?
Yeah, I think it was very like good answer, because I think a lot of people don't think that way. A lot of people, just like I asked the question, a lot of people would be like, yeah, I want to know the whole process. Like, how do I go? Like, how would I be an expert in like 1 month, 2 months, or 6 months? Whereas they don't understand, like, if they're not doing it for their own interest and out of like enjoying the learning process, then none of the books or none of the courses are going to help in the long run.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why if I say like one thing and it doesn't work for you, then, but in that sense, it's also important to realize like, this is a process. It's a language. So what do you want to do with it? Right. And at the same time, it's not a destination. I think we can talk about this in a bit, but like, I think fluency is more of an attitude than anything else. And we think that it's a place that we have to get to, right? Okay, if only I can pass these tests and do all of these things, then I will arrive at some like destination in the future. But really, it's about me in this moment and what I want right now and what I can do right now. And I think that when we keep that in mind, we can actually enjoy the process, as opposed to, for some of us, it becomes torture. It becomes something we force and we push, because if only, X, Y, Z in the future. But I think it's really important to keep in mind that this is a process. So the more enjoyable it is, the more we're going to do it. And the more we think of it as a destination, the more we're going to leave behind the enjoyment, the pleasure, which is like the whole point.
Mm-hmm. And also towards the audience and the people who are watching, I want to add that we usually take questions at the end, but now we will be taking questions also in the middle, so that if you have any confusions or any questions, you can ask and I will forward them to Irina and she will answer them. Because I think that that makes more of a sense that, you know, like people, if they have any questions, they ask in the middle and not just at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So I've also seen that you have this project which was finished through New Eyes.
Mm-hmm.
So what led you to to this program, and like what do you provide like through this service?
Mm-hmm. So Finnish Through New Eyes has been like many years in the making. I many years ago, I said as a joke, like I want to like revolutionize the way that people learn Finnish.
Mm-hmm.
It was a joke, but it was like a little bit of a seed. And so I tested different programs, different ways, different formats of how it could be done. And I was doing coaching with people one-on-one. And I noticed after a while, I was starting to I was going through the same things. I was explaining the same things over and over and over again. So I wanted to put it like in a program. So those were the first couple iterations. And then in 2017, so I was already living in Finland for 7 years. I was already into the like language coaching scene. But in 2017, I got a job in a clothing store where I was speaking Finnish like all the time. I was like so immersed in Finnish. And that experience like completely shifted everything that I thought I knew, even after all of the questioning. So there's always more we can learn about, you know, how we learn language and what is possible. So I would be speaking Finnish, and like I would be observing myself speaking, wondering who is saying these things. Like it wasn't things that I knew that I could do. I would be using words that I never learned, right? And a whole bunch of other things where it was just such a kind of euphoric experience for a language nerd to see how your brain adapts and you know produces language as an adult. Probably what happened to us as kids that we don't remember. But this was like the very immersive experience. So I thought, okay, this is what I want to put into a program. And I was taking the ideas that I had been working on, and then I added this piece of, I often talk about, you know, you are wired for language. We are all human beings wired for language, and we adapt to the environment around us, the linguistic environment, the cultural environment. We can learn new things at any age. So this is my immersive program. It's 12 weeks. Is it 12 weeks? I think it's 12 weeks, 10 weeks. I don't remember. But the idea behind it is that we're not just looking at one side of learning, but we're looking at the whole thing and little pieces as well, and then how they work together. So as opposed to smaller courses that I have available, this is like the big one. And it's basically based on, you know, what if we like put aside all the stuff that we think we know about what language learning is or what we can do as like individuals, you know, and all the past successes or failures I may have had, and look at it through new eyes.
So you also mentioned like you also have like shorter courses also in your website.
Yeah, I have, for example, a pronunciation course, and this is so this is another thing that when it's like, okay, you ask me you know, advice going forward, be really specific about what you are learning, right? So if we're learning fluency, like what does that mean, right? And your daily life looks different from my daily life. So the stuff that you would be using Finnish for could be different than the stuff I would be using Finnish for. So when we get really specific, like, okay, I want to work on my Finnish pronunciation, right? That's like, I made this course first because it's like the starting point. A lot rests on this, and yet so many people just go through like to intermediate courses and then struggle with pronunciation. So it ends up being something that you drag around. So yeah, so that's like a very, very focused approach.
And
And
are
also
all
something that's important to keep in mind. Sorry.
Mhm. And I was just asking, like, all of these courses are they like more of like individual courses where they get like more personal help, or is it like in a group or online, or how does these courses work?
It depends. It depends on the course. So the program, we do like group calls. Finnish Through New Eyes, we meet weekly. With the pronunciation course, it's videos. You practice at your own pace. There's some Q&A calls for those who want to ask questions, and then there's also the option to request that I add stuff to the library. So there's a library internally where you can hear things pronounced, and I like break them down and slow them down. And then basically you can ask for that to be added there. So yeah, so there, I'm playing around with different formats and seeing like what is it that what is needed in that situation, basically.
Then we have a question from Ekaterina. It was I have worked here in English for 3.5 years now and did my master's in English. Am I a lost cause, or is it too late?
Never, no. So yeah, this is when it's really important to, start looking at things through new eyes and start identifying opportunities. You've just practiced a pattern of English, for 3.5 years, but you are never, ever lost cause, and it never is too late. So I actually really enjoy working with people who might think that. So it's really amazing and rewarding to see this stuff shift even after years. But just so you know, like, never a lost cause, and it's never too late. So we are adaptive beings, and like our predisposition to language doesn't go away with time. So it's still there. Just have to reawaken it.
Yeah, I also think a lot of people like have this thought process that with age we start losing our capabilities to learn language, and it might be so late and all of these things also.
Yeah, I mean, it might not be like the most obvious thing how to go forward, and we all have things that we can't see. So I think doing stuff in areas where we struggle, it's really good to work with others to see what's possible. This is the question I'm always asking. Okay, what is possible? If I don't like what I'm seeing in front of me, like, what else is possible, instead of pushing down an avenue that isn't working for me. And this is as someone who has gone through burnout. Then you really have to learn how to manage energy and not just like push and bulldoze through everything. So that's why I'm really keen on talking about joy and enjoying the process, because there's so many things we can learn from it.
And then we have another question from Lan. Which level of Finnish enough to study in vocational college as soon as possible to get there?
That's a great question. I don't know. I think going back to this like individual unique journey, you can ask yourself, how would I feel most comfortable? Like, because if you kind of gauge, okay, this is like, remember when I said like fluency is an attitude more than anything? So I guess in this example, I would look at, okay, what is the thing I would be studying? And then also being able to communicate around that in the things that would be taught in school. So you need to have, I think, basic conversation. And then, like, do you need to read in the language? These are all things you're going to learn it by doing. So going to school and doing this will push you linguistically as well. So it doesn't need to be perfect. But having, and then of course it's like the admissions, right? So if you have to apply, do you start there with being able to get in? That can also be, so we don't have to I always say, like, practice for the interview. You don't have to be able to do the job. So to give an example, my first day in the clothing store, they told me, like, if there's nobody in the store, then you could just like viikata vaateita. And I was like, what does viikata mean? And it means to fold the clothes. So so she was like, it's like when you fold. And I said, okay, I'm still learning the basic vocab, but I'll catch up. Like, just don't worry, right? I wasn't worried. So that is also, I know this doesn't answer the full question of the vocational college, but I just want to bring it in there as an example of what my attitude, right? Like, no, I don't know these words. I will learn them by having to use them, as opposed to, oh my God, I don't know them. It's so embarrassing. I'm such a failure. Like, where should I have these words, right? If not in the environment doing the thing. So I think it's going to be a balance between, you know, can I ask questions? Can I, like, if I get in there, what can I do? And I'll learn it. You don't have to learn it all. What do I need to get in there? And yeah, and you can go about it looking at language as like A1, A2, B1, B2, or you can go about it based on your own gut feeling and like, okay, what situations can I move around in? What is it that I can do with the language? And so just different ways of looking at it, basically, but it doesn't have to be, I don't know if there's some official, there might be some official way also for assessing language skills. Maybe that's something to look into. So.
Then also there's another question. Atikur asked, what are some best ways to learn Finnish from a foreign country? And I think this is also really interesting because, you know, when you're in Finland, you're able to conversate with people. You go to the shop and people are like, haluatko maksaa, da 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 da, and then like all of these things, and you get used to it soon enough by watching, you know, the signs and everything. But what would be some of the best ways to learn Finnish from a foreign country?
It depends. What are you curious about? What are you excited about? Do you want to get a book, order it online? Do you want to attend a course? You can now do courses online because everyone's doing everything online. Anyway, so do you want to use an app? And if you want to use an app, I would strongly recommend that you know what you are trying to learn with it, because we also have, we have to make sure that whatever methods that we use, book, course, app, etc., are aligned with our goals. And those are not like strategies in themselves, they're methods. So there's the way that we approach learning, which is very specific about what I want to learn. And then there's the way we go about learning those things. So for example, if I tell you to just download Duolingo and like, you know, learn Finnish that way, like, is that going to give you the Finnish that you want? So, so for this question, I would say, you know, what do you want to do with your Finnish? Like, narrow it down from learn Finnish to like, I want to be able to have a 5-minute conversation or whatever, and then look around for how would I get this information and what am I curious about? What would seem fun to me? Like, I'm a paper pencil girl, so everything I learn is like very simple. Other people like making complex systems and using different programs for that, and that's cool. So we're all really, really different. But I think the most important thing when assessing methods and ways are to know what is it that I'm setting out to do. And I think when we're setting out to learn Finnish, it's too vague. We want to get it really narrowed down and specific.
That makes so much sense, because I have also done kind of similar things. I've downloaded a lot of apps, and there are a lot of, you know, free, what is it called? The free brochures and like free materials over the internet. So I downloaded them, and then I was like trying to learn, but I never had my goals fixed. So it was really hard to like know, like, where am I going? Like, if you don't have your goals fixed, if you don't have like this, you know, these steps that you know that, okay, so I've crossed the dimension 1, now the dimension 2, now the dimension 3, then it's really hard to go from there.
Yeah. And even so, some people resonate with like clear goals. I think clarity in general is great. I like directions or intentions also work, you know, so if you're headed towards like, just wanting to feel that when I'm in a conversation, I can say more, right? Like even that will give you like, okay, and the next time I'm in a conversation, listening, what is it that I need to know to be able to keep up, or what are the skills I need to develop here? So we can always be asking ourselves that question, even if it's not like a frozen goal, like learn 500 words or something. But it could be, and then again, learn 500 words for what? Like, what are you going to do with them? So yeah, that.
And also, also, if we go into more of the the professional and cultural side, why would you say like learning a language would help you in a foreign language professionally and also culturally? Because I think, just to clear up the question a little more, I think a lot of people think like like when I go, maybe I can just go on with English, and like being a part of culture, they don't see it as much important as it is actually in a foreign country. So what is your thoughts on that?
Oh, it depends. It's so different. So some people have no interest in learning language at all. I'm assuming that most people listening have some interest and see some value in it. I could say for me personally, Finnish culture was like, in English, Finnish culture translated into English made no sense. Like all of my brain wires just got like totally crossed. So for me, part of it was like, okay, if I can communicate in Finnish, then I'll actually have a context, a cultural context to understand these interactions better. So often when we go to a foreign country, we are very, very prone to this us versus them thinking. And then we look at Finns as like a homogenous, them and then us. So in order, I think language is like the most beautiful bridge between that, to see also individuals and to see also the nuances and different contexts, how might people behave differently at work or at basketball practice. I don't know. I think that the language allows us to understand people without getting lost in translation. And then in terms, can you just repeat the question? Because now I don't remember if it was it in the context of work?
Yeah, so it is mostly like in the context of work.
Yeah, so there's also this part about like, is this a Finnish thing? Is this an individual thing? Like, there's
and also
there's
about
so many things caked into a culture, like assumptions, that we expect people to know. And I feel like when we speak international English, like I have my Canadian assumptions, and then you might have like Bangladesh assumptions, right? And then we're moving and we're speaking English, but we're expecting different things at the back of our minds, right? And it depends. And then when you're in an international community, usually people learn to like negotiate more around these and to kind of let expectations loosen and understand that we're all so different and we're all trying to understand each other. But I think when you're in the country itself, it's more up to us to figure that stuff out. It won't necessarily be explained. And then also just about the work, I don't think it's a black and white thing. So even at work, it doesn't mean you understand everything that's going on in the language. It could also be you learn a couple things here and there, day by day. So that there doesn't need to be this like, either I speak the language fluently and understand everything and all of these nuances, or I don't. It can just be taking an interest, like, oh, that's interesting. What's that? And kind of going towards it. So did I answer your question?
Yeah, I think that answers because I also think the same way that you just mentioned, like in the work, there's a lot of people would be like, they would want to know, but then they don't know like at what part and what things. And I'm actually looking into this next question. So it would be, do you know how we can download the text files from SoundCloud podcast listening? So basically, there is this under the web form, there is this download button. You have to click it, but also
Yeah.
the person who uploads it has to give the permission to in their permission track to download it, or otherwise you cannot do it. And
Okay.
then we have another question
That
from
sounds
this.
like a great thing to Google. Maybe the Google will know.
Yeah. Then the second question was, which way can we make Finnish people talk with us in Finnish in its more simple variant, but not in English when they see our bad Finnish language skill?
Yeah, so I think this is a great question. And also, by the way, they might not switch language because of bad Finnish.
Exactly.
It could, there's so many reasons, it gets very complicated. But I think it helps to be clear on what you want. So when people switch, I still get switched over to English sometimes, and I don't switch. So like if we're speaking Finnish and you speak to me in English, I don't switch. So realize it takes like two to tango, right? And so when we see that that's happening, we basically just want to communicate, you know, what is it that I want? So it could be something simple like, haluaisin harjoitella suomea. I want to practice Finnish. You know, it could be puhun mieluummin suomea. I would rather speak Finnish. Or if you're like me, like puhun suomea, just like I speak Finnish. So it depends on the situation. So making that clear, and then if you feel like they say something and you might not know what it is that they're saying, then ask questions. Hey, can you repeat that? Could you speak a little slower, please? You know, and when you give people these very specific like action points, and these of course are sentences to learn, right? Like what is it that trips you up? Is it the speed? Is it a specific word? Is it whatever? And then be really specific in communicating about it. People are really excited to help out. You're giving them a very direct task instead of like speaking a little bit of Finnish, like not being sure if it's correct, and they want to help. So in that sense, just having very clear communication around your expectations, and then they'll help.
And we would be soon running out of time. So if anyone has any more questions, you can also write them down now, and I can ask them to Irina. And also, Irina, would you be up for answering the questions? Like if anyone has any questions later on after it is published, and then shall I send them forward to you and you can answer them? Would that be fine?
Sure. Yeah, I've actually been making on YouTube. I've been making little like YouTube live videos and with questions I get, and especially the frequently asked questions. And I'll just do a little. I'll jump on and answer it. And yeah, it's kind of a fun and easy way as opposed to just writing emails all day.
And also, I think a lot of people, you know, who relocate to Finland, they want to be a part of the Finnish culture. And which I think is, of course, obviously very important to be a part of, you know, the country that you're relocating. But also they want to like keep, you know, their own culture integrated there.
Yeah.
So how do you find that balance? How do like, because they fall in this dilemma that how do I find that balance where I'm also a part of Finnish culture, but on the other hand, I'm also like, you know, representing my own culture in myself.
Yeah. Three things come to mind. One is that it's a process, not a destination. So it's a practice. Like we talked about this earlier. I was like, I have not done it perfectly. I'm constantly asking myself, you know, how can I bring my Romanian in? How can I bring my Canadian in, and my French Canadian, and my, you know, Finnish? So it's the more you have, the more there is to juggle. But in that sense, it's just the willingness to ask and to see, okay, what is it? So for some people, it might just be like they miss home so much. So then that's a chance to, you know, find people here who are maybe from your home country or who share certain things, right? But if you don't have that, right, it really depends. So that's one part of it. Another part of it is the thinking long-term versus short-term. So I think we don't need to have all of the pieces all at once. We can also just work with what we have. And then the third part, which maybe should have been the second, is that we can think in terms of sprints or marathons, right? So marathon being the long term and sprint being an effort that we put in over time. So I'm thinking of a friend who came to Finland, and in the beginning he avoided like all people from his country and all people who spoke French, and he just found Finnish friends and learned the language, and that was like his intention. Once he did that, and of course again it doesn't have to be this, it can be whatever it looks like for you. Once he did that, he then went out and like met more people from his country, and he's very like integrated in his community and everything. But I've also heard of other people, and I was one of them, who didn't necessarily try to make a lot of international friends, but tried to make more Finnish friends. So realizing that there can also be periods of, you know, exposure to a language and community, and then finding the other pieces as you go, but that you don't necessarily have to start with like your own and then figure out how to get Finnish in there. So yeah, that there's also this aspect of immersion in there.
I think there's another question. Rob asked, what's the best way to find vocab for work? So many apps or courses teach you how to say things about comfortable sofas, but not how to talk about how to get the photocopier to work. I think that's also like one of the very interesting questions, because like, you know, everything teaches you how to go to the shop and buy like apples, but how do you learn more about the work?
So you are the one at work, Rob. So looking around, you know, and looking about what are the things that you want to say. And then, so I always, people hate it when I say this, but like, you are your best source of vocabulary. So asking those questions, exactly. That is such a great, like, okay, how to get the photocopier to work? The last time it broke, what happened? What would I have needed to say? Look up those words and learn those. Instead of being spoon-fed, you know, comfortable sofa and having nothing to use it for, we can take our lives, use that as the classroom, go do a little bit of research, and then we have something to use in that context. And we don't have to wait for the photocopier to break either. So we can look at the things that are happening on a daily basis, and then learning from those. But basically, yeah, I would say you're the best way to find vocab for work.
So finding different situations that you fall in work and what you should have done or said there, those kind of things.
Exactly. You can look it up. You can ask a friend. You know, you call a friend. Yeah.
Do you have any advice on? There's another question. Do you have any advice on any book where the Finnish way of speaking is explained? I mean, there are special language features like puhekieli or verbirectio.
So I'm actually going to make a course on puhekieli. It's not as complicated as people make it out to be. I remember finding a book about it at the library, and it was so like, puhekieli is a natural spoken language. It's a natural progression. So do not, don't, right? But then you can take it to an extreme as well. And the book I found was like way extreme. And I was thinking like, I don't want to speak like this. And a lot of people I hear don't necessarily speak like this. So it's interesting if it's just that. My favorite book and is From Start to Finish by Layla White. It's the only book I've read cover to cover for Finnish. And I think it's a great one just because I enjoyed it. So if you find it and you look at it and it looks like something you would actually read, that is the best determinant of whether or not you would enjoy it. I don't remember what verbirectio is right now. But yeah, I'm making courses about these specific things. That one I have to look up. But yeah, puhekieli, at least if you want to jump on my website, irinapravet.com, and there's a place you can leave your email there, and I'll let you know when puhekieli becomes available, or email me about it, and then I'll know that people are like waiting on it. So come soon.
I think we already like ran a little over time, so we wouldn't be taking any more questions now. But any more questions, if you guys have, you can always write in the comments below the live. and I will forward them to Irina, and then Irina would answer them, and I would get back to all of you. Well,
Yeah.
thank you, Irina. This was a great session, and I think that I think it provided a lot of value to everyone who joined, and I personally also learned like so many of, because I think language learning is more of a perspective shift than just learning the language processes and tricks and trips and all of this.
Yeah, and what's going to work for one of us isn't going to work for somebody else. So it's really about trusting yourself and knowing that you can do this. No matter what, you can do this. And the way that you're going to do it best is by enjoying yourself. You don't have to have fun like all the time, but just making choices towards more fun is enough. So, yeah.
Yes. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Thank you for all of the questions. And once again, thank you, Irina, for being a part of our online breakfast with the shortcut.
Thank you so much for having me. And if anybody wants to keep in touch, you can find me at irinapravet.com.
Yep. See you, everyone. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.